Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blue Table Talks. I'm Derek Smith from the Intercessors Investigative and Training Group, and today I have another law enforcement professional for you that's going to share their wisdom and knowledge for the next 45 minutes, an hour or so. So my guest today is Colby Pickering. He's a civilian law enforcement officer. And Colby, why don't you come and introduce yourself and kind of tell people what you do?
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. Like you said, my name's Colby Pickering. I've been employed by a county law enforcement agency here in Florida for almost 5 years.
Okay. And what did you do before that? How long have you been in law enforcement? 5 years, or what came before that?
College. So
okay.
Law enforcement's new.
Okay.
Was able to get hired right out of college when I graduated, and did that for probably about four years or so. And I got another job offer from a private security company that was a startup. And unfortunately, that didn't pan out like I thought it would. And took a few months off and did some job searching during COVID, which might have not been the best idea. But I ended up, after 3 or 4 months, contacting my old sheriff's office, and they hired me back on. And I've been back approximately 2 months.
Are you still uniform on the street, or are you doing investigations or anything like that?
No, nothing like that. The way Florida works, and I'm sure other states probably similar, is you have certified and then you have civilian, or sworn and civilian. And so I guess this gets into another one of your questions later, but we can cover that at a later point. But I'm on the civilian side of law enforcement.
Okay, great.
So no badge, no gun, nothing like that.
Okay.
And do office work mainly.
Okay, I didn't get that until you just told me. When you said civilian side, I thought you were saying civilian versus federal. I got a lot of federal officers and things like that, so I thought you were saying civilian.
No. I know, like, a lot of places, city, county, state, probably federal too, have administrative civilian positions, and that's what I basically do.
Yeah, when I was in the military, when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed in Las Vegas, and I got a job offer. They called it a specialist position. Now, I didn't have to go through the Las Vegas Metro PD Academy, but I was going to get a gun and badge, and my specialty was going to be going whenever a child or elderly person passed away, I would do that investigation. And I ended up turning the job down because I'm like, man, every time I go, I had to go to all the autopsies and stuff. I'm like, every time I show up, it's going to either be a dead child or a dead elderly person. And I decided I didn't want to do it, and I re-enlisted. But it was going to be a specialty position, a special position where I come right in and didn't have to go through the academy and all that kind of stuff. But as you said, I was a federal agent and all that. So I know we have a lot of civilian positions. If people watch NCIS and all that kind of stuff, and the people behind the computers and administrative and all that. But let me ask you this. So what led to you coming into that career? Was it something you always wanted to do, or how did you end up doing what you do now?
I was going to say, I guess I'll kind of answer another one of your questions, and we'll kind of go out of order here a little bit. But I was born premature, and I had a vision issue with my corrected vision, and basically my retina is detached.
Okay.
And I guess similar to what happens with boxers and professional athletes. And
Ray Leonard, yeah.
So basically my retina is detached. The doctors hammered back on my retinas. So I've got laser dots on each of my eyes. And basically they told my parents, because I was at a pretty high risk of not even making it in general. They said, don't, you'll have glasses and contacts, whatever. But they told my parents that don't let them do football, boxing, MMA, anything like that growing up. Because if I ever took a hard blow to the head, it could detach my retinas. I could go blind. So I'm at a higher risk factor, I guess, of that than the average person. So basically, I grew up watching cops and everything else, and thought it was really cool. And probably when I was a teenager, 13, 14, stuff like that, I enrolled. The local police department where I was living in Indiana had a teen police academy with in conjunction with the YMCA, and it was basically a week or two of like a mini police academy. You do fitness, and then you see different specialty units come out, and you can do simulated traffic stops and simulated investigations, stuff like that. And So basically, I did that for a couple of weeks, thought it was the coolest thing in the world, seeing the officers and all that, and kind of decided that's what I wanted to get into and do the patrol side of things. And basically, I applied my senior year of college. I went ahead and applied for patrol. So I'm like, all right, I'll go ahead and do this. Like, I know I have the vision issue, but I'll give it a try anyway and see what happens. And so I cleared psych and medical, or psych and eval and polygraph, and I cleared everything all the way up to the medical screening. And then they gave me a bunch of paperwork and ran me through all the tests and everything. And all the paperwork was like about vision and all that. And they unfortunately disqualified me because I didn't meet their minimum vision requirement. But I think once I was able to go see a doctor and they said, yeah, you don't have 20/20 vision, you never will, but I think you meet the minimum requirements, go to an academy. And so there was a meeting, I guess, with our sheriff and a bunch of other people. And basically, I don't think they qualified me to go to the academy because they said it would be such a risk even to do that in terms of like defensive tactics and stuff like that. Yeah. And so, I mean, I kind of like now, almost 5 years into law enforcement on the civilian side, it's like I kind of see it as a blessing of like, well, I had this issue and it kept me out of doing road patrol for a certain reason. And like, it kind of annoyed me and made me mad in the beginning and all that when I was like, oh, I can't go do road patrol. But looking back at it, I'm like, there's other ways that I can be helpful to people on the civilian side of things.
Absolutely.
And it's like, even while having this issue, it's like, okay, so I can't go to the academy and can't like do the patrol side of things, but I can help people in other ways.
Mm-hmm. You know, I was doing an interview with another guy today, and basically said what people don't realize, there is so many things you can do to contribute in this field. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with a badge and a gun or out in the street. And the guy I was talking to, he went to the academy to be a police officer, but as soon as he got out, he's like, I don't know if I really want to do this. He became a constable. And so he wasn't out on a patrol doing a patrol car, but he was out doing warrants and picking up fugitives and all that. And that was his forte. That's what he liked doing. You know, that became his career until he became a private investigator. So it led to that. Now, are you able to say what it is you do as a civilian, or is it kind of classified?
It's not really classified. It's just that kind of a bunch of changes with everything going on and all that right now because my unit's new. Okay. And so basically, I'm a community outreach coordinator.
Okay.
And so basically, outreach to local businesses and the general public and all that. Mm-hmm. And
is that building a relationship with the sheriff's department and things like that? Is that the
pretty much building relationships with the sheriff's department, letting the public know, here's who we are, what we do, and here's our outreach center, and basically, you guys can come here and host any meetings you want here, and we'll bring the public in and have some of our speakers as well come in and speak and do classes on crime prevention and a bunch of different stuff.
Well, you know, I'm a Maryland National Resources Reserve Officer, and that's kind of what we do. We do outreach. Now, we have uniforms and all that kind of stuff and badges, but our job is to go out in the community and make them aware of what we do as National Resources Police officers. So I go to boat shows and I go to community centers and I do boat inspections and all that. Now, I am on the search and rescue team, so we can do some of those things, but I can't enforce the law. I can't arrest anybody. I don't have a guy. I haven't been through their academy, but I am the face that they see. You know, at the graduations, I work the graduations and all that kind of stuff. And people don't realize how important that part is, because most people nowadays see police and it's not a happy occasion. So we kind of go out there and make it more, okay, we're here and we're here to help in the community. Is
exactly.
Is that kind of where you are? Okay.
Basically, yeah.
Now, what's next for you then? Do you want to do PI work, or do you see yourself doing something else in this field? Matter of fact,
I was going to say I picked up just mainly in college, more as a resume builder than, but I used them a little bit. But I picked up my unarmed security and my armed security for the state of Florida.
Cool.
And I did some unarmed work. I didn't do any armed work while I was in college. But I just kept the license active and all that. And then recently, after the security startup job opportunity that I thought was great didn't work out for me, unfortunately. I took a few months off and did some job searching during COVID. And one of the things I did was obtain my state of Florida private investigator license.
Ooh, cool. Okay.
So just, and I was going to say I interviewed with a few companies and all that, and there was a bunch of companies that's just they couldn't guarantee me a certain number of hours for work.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was kind of like, all right, well, that's kind of hard to pay for rent for an apartment and just general.
Yep. Now,
general life.
A lot of us start part-time. So, I mean, you can take on some process serving, you can do some surveillance cases and things like that. You willing to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I mean, I kind of just have like I said, I have the security licenses and the PI license now as kind of a backup. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're all on my resume and all that. So, but I mean, I like the law enforcement agency I'm with. I like the people, and I like helping people at the end of the day. So
what part of Florida are you located in?
I'm located in Southwest Florida.
All right, so folks, I just want to know if you're in Southwest Florida and you're looking for a PI part-time or security and all that, Colby's information is going to be down here in the video when we finish up, but there's a guy for you. The good thing about this, Colby, is that I put this in like 30, 35 groups, and I put it on LinkedIn and things like that. So a lot. Here's the thing. When I do this, I try to build a network as well as an interview. Now you're part of my network. I'm part of your network. When I get work, I want to use you and things like that. And I got friends down in Florida, so we'll talk about that later on as well. But so do you see yourself eventually doing some PI work, second career or your own?
Yeah, maybe down the road as a second career. I was going to say I'm 27 right now, so I got a long time to go. So
plenty of time. Yeah. Matter of fact, you still might be able to do that. You either think about federal positions as not ATF, DEA, but as inspector general. Every government agency has an inspector general. And, and I tell you, I've never had an eye test for an inspector general job. Now, I'll say this. Now, there's different jobs. Like I had to go to FLEXI in the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. I don't know what their requirements are, but we did have to do some defensive tactics and stuff a little bit and all that. But that's something that you can consider and still be in there if that's what you want to do. You might find that you have another niche like cybersecurity or penetration testing or something that's becoming big that's going to pay you well as well.
Yeah.
So what are you currently working on? What are you focused on right now, career-wise, PI? Well, I know you said you got your PI license when you had some downtime. But kind of what's your focus and what you see yourself doing next?
I mean, my focus right now is law enforcement. There's a lot of, like you said, there's just a lot of civilian opportunities within a law enforcement agency. And there's different units that I can get into and all that. And the unit that I'm in now, like I said, I've been there for a couple months and just want to continue with that. And since it's relatively new, I'm enjoying helping it grow kind of from the ground up and work with a bunch of good people in that unit and just seeing where we can take things over the next year, 2 years, 3 years on down the road.
So because you get the exposure, get the information, get the opportunity. And let me tell you, man, you definitely have the look. and
appreciate that. Thank you.
And let me say, I always check out my guests and go on Facebook and all that. Man, your Facebook pictures, I thought you were an actor or something. Man, you're like you're an actor or something on there. And I act on the side. I got an IMDb and I got a movie coming out.
I got you. Nice. So I appreciate that, though. Thank you.
Like, dude, this dude's like an actor or something, or something. So that's pretty cool. So let me ask you this. And this is a little bit different than I ask guys. I have people who've been on for 2 years. I have people who've been on for 40 years. But what is a common myth about your profession, your field? You don't have a PI experience, but just dealing with law enforcement in general, especially with the times we have now, and we're not being the most popular person. I put on my uniform. I'm afraid sometimes because I don't get to carry a gun and a badge. I can carry one off duty, but not when I'm in uniform. So what's one of the biggest myths you like to debunk about our career field and about what you know about it so far?
Just like law enforcement. I mean, a lot of people, just they don't know what goes on a daily basis. Like TV's obviously different than reality. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think like some of the reality shows are good because it gives people a little bit of an insight into what's going on. But I think like there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't know about. Yes. And so kind of a common myth I just say is that TV is different than reality. And I'd say that probably just law enforcement in general, fire, EMS, public safety, executive protection, PI, we're all just trying to do our jobs and go home at the end of the day.
I'm glad you mentioned, because, you know, everybody watch television shows and think they can solve a crime in 45 minutes to an hour. You know, everybody, when you watch, you know, 911 and cops and all that, you only see 80% of the time we're not doing that stuff. 80% of the time we're doing normal stuff. We're meeting with the public, we're having conversations, we're doing whatever we do. And only 20% maybe are we doing the wrestling and the fighting and the wrestling and all that. Of course, that 80% is not going to be on television because that's not exciting. You know?
No, yeah, exactly.
And another thing, I know you know this, but when you see the news, something happening around the world, it may look like a lot of bad things are happening with police officers right now. But out of 1,000 encounters, 2 might be bad. But what do you think? What's going to be on the news? It's not going to be on the news that Derek helped the old woman across the street. It's going to be on the news those 2 that went bad. And unfortunately, people getting their perception from that. And it's hard to beat that. We're not like right now. People get their perception from that news. News is only going to show sensationalism. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I started when I came out in the public information office, doing like public records requests down here in Florida. And we got the Sunshine Law for open public records and stuff like that. And so I started out doing that when I graduated. And it was like I watched the news, I think, for maybe a week or 2, just kind of know what was going on. And then I realized, hey, when I go into work at 7 o'clock, we watch the same thing from 7 o'clock probably to 10 or 10:30, and it's the same cycles over and over and over. And it's like it's not positive, and it's the, like you said, the couple bad things the sheriff's office did versus the 2 million good things they do on a daily basis.
Right. And people are swayed so easily by those sites that they see it. That's all they're exposed to. They're not exposed to. There always should be something on the news to show, I don't know, the officer good thing they did of the day or something like that. You know, that would probably help our field somewhat.
No, so, I mean, I think in general, like people, whether you're civilian, sworn, whatever you are, I was gonna say, I mean, my uniform's a polo and slacks and dress shoes. No badge, no gun, and all that, obviously. But it's like, so people don't know sometimes, are you an officer or not? And it's like, no badge, no gun. So that kind of answers your question. But I mean, I feel good at the end of the day. Like people come up, hey, shake my hand or whatever. Just not with COVID, but people just come up at the end of the day. It just feels good. Hey, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you guys do. We support you. That means more to me at the end of the day than anything. Just knowing that people support what we do and just support us. And I mean, we live in our communities, we work there, we pray there, and kind of at the end of the day, we're out there as part of the communities and working there and doing our thing. And we all just want to collect a paycheck and go home.
And I think what you do is so important because that's the community relations part. I mean, that's the part that's going to fix the other part, the perception, you know, like, oh man, these guys are not bad. Because you said they don't know if you're a police officer. Let me tell you, when I was a federal agent, I rarely had to show my badge. You know, it's about your demeanor. Like I said, you look like a law enforcement officer. It's about your demeanor, how you carry yourself, how you interact with people, the rapport you build. And they get the idea that this guy's a law enforcement officer. I got to ask him, you know, because of the way you carry yourself. Now, you said.
No, yeah. And I mean, it's like just most of the time, it's like even with us, we got a sign on the wall in our office. It says, be ready to smile and greet people. And it's like, I think smiling a lot of times with people, like, just smiling, hey, how's your day going? Just something real simple. Most people don't like expect anything like that. And oh, hey, my day's going great. Good, I'm glad. Just like something simple, just like being polite to people. It's
because you know,
gets you pretty far.
As an officer, they told me never apologize, and I know why now. Excuse me. You know, if I did something wrong, I can't say, hey, I'm sorry, Colby, about that, because you know that could end up getting us in court. You know, if they can go to court and say, I want to sue the city because this guy, and you know he's wrong because he apologized. So we can't apologize. So it's good to have somebody who can. You know, when I was a kid, I'm from Chicago, we used to have Officer Friendly. And Officer Friendly would come to the school and all that and greet you. I don't see much of that anymore. So we need that role. And I kind of do that as a reservist. I want to be that guy that's smiling. You see the pictures on their website. I'm posing with babies, as they say, and the kids. And we hand out whistles to the kids and all that kind of stuff. I want to be that guy. You know, I'm 57 years old. I'm not the guy rolling around the ground fighting anymore. I want to be the guy that say, oh, you know, I'm the representative of the law enforcement guys in Maryland National Resources Police, and I want to be a good representative for those folks. You know.
Yeah.
Now in college, did you say you majored in criminal justice or?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so you majored in criminal justice. So now, as you go in your career, and it's kind of just starting, but how do you keep up with the law enforcement aspect? How do you keep up with your field and keep up with the newer things that's happening in policing and all that? Do you do that, and how do you do it?
I was going to say, I mean, I get a bunch of the same emails that law enforcement does. We're aware of some of the same stuff that's going on out on the streets, and just aware of like the current events that's affecting our different districts in our county and all that. So, and I mean, we're tuned in, and I don't watch the news a lot, just like because we kind of discussed it's mostly negative, and it's like you get caught up in so much negativity. It's like that just overtakes your life, and
Yeah.
so I mean, I watch it every now and then, just see what's going on with current events and stuff like that. But I mean, for the most part, like I'll come home and flip on Amazon or Netflix or something like that, and
Sure.
that's
My wife get mad at me, man, because she comes and say, "Did you see so and so happened in the news?" I'm like, "Babe, I haven't watched the news this week." And she's like, "You
Yeah.
gotta watch the news and know what's going on in your world." I don't. It's just negative, and I just feel down when I watch it. So I'm like,
no,
Netflix, you know.
I agree.
So, do you now? You took your PI. Did you take a PI course, or how did that work for you? How did you get educated as a PI to get your license? What's required down there in Florida?
What's required in Florida? You got to do have 2 years of verifiable full-time experience, or I think you have to have an internship working under somebody to get those 2 years of verifiable experience. A college degree counts as 1 year.
Okay.
And then basically, if you can demonstrate to the state, they make you take a test first on material.
You
And
have
they
to
tell
have a
you
test
what.
in Florida. You have to have a test in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
cool.
tell you what to study, what the statutes are, and everything, and all that. And once you pass the test, basically you fill out your PI, I guess, booklet or application,
Mhm.
and in there you just put a, I guess, kind of an affidavit or sheet, basically with your experience.
Mhm.
And so I basically, because I had my degree for 1 year, the other combined 4 years I had in law enforcement. On the civilian side counted in terms of researching and doing all kinds of stuff.
Now, if you didn't have that, do you have to take any type of training? Like Georgia has a course, Virginia has a 2-week training.
I think you do have to take one for
like
Florida.
law.
I think it's 40 hours.
Yeah.
It's like a PI introductory course. You have to take that, and then you have to have somebody sponsor you for the next to get those required 2 years.
Okay. Now, do you anticipate having any? Are you going to take any further PI training if you decide to go that route, or how are you going? How do you plan to progress if you decide to pursue PI?
Yeah, I might. I mean, I'm just the type of person, like if something interests me, I'll take a course in it or get on Google and just study about it and see what I can find out. And I mean, I'm all about like furthering my training and all that. So if I decide to pursue the PI thing down the road, I'll absolutely get some additional training in it.
Mm-hmm. You know,
and just see what's going on.
Okay. A lot of the guys I talk to, they talk about continuously training and reading more books and all that kind of stuff. And one thing they talk about is nowadays niching. You know, I consider myself kind of a generalist, right? Even though I want to work for law firms, but some specialize in protective service, some specialize now in ethical hacking and all that. So I'm finding that as I talk to people in these interviews, they're starting to niche a little bit in this field instead of being that general private investigator to take on child, pornography, and also the husband is cheating and also this, that, and the other type of thing. So that's cool. So I know it's only been 5 years or so, but what's one thing that you wish you had known when you first began this career, this journey in law enforcement, in the law enforcement field?
Honestly, I think law enforcement and PI work, executive protection, anything is, and I actually had a conversation with my supervisor about this the other day. and nobody teaches you in college or like high school, college, postgraduate, whatever. Nobody teaches you in that, hey, it's the real world. You're going to have downtime. You're going to be bored.
Yep.
Like nobody teaches you that. So it's like I came out of college and I was like gung ho, and my supervisor gave me stuff to do in PIO, and I'd get it done. And okay, what's next? What do you have next for me? And I was like, I had that eagerness and that aggressiveness and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had that during one of my evaluations. She's like, just calm down.
Yeah.
The work will come. It comes in waves.
Yep.
Sometimes you're really busy and sometimes you're not. And just act busy, look busy, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your computer screen up, blah, blah, blah. But just when you have downtime, like appreciate it. And I mean, that's still something I fight to this day. Like I had a conversation with a supervisor the other day. I'm like, a couple of months into unit almost, am I doing good in this? And they're like, just relax. You're doing good. And just chill out. The work will come and all that. But it's like, I think I still kind of fight that to this day of like, I have boredom at work, or I'm bored at work and I got all my work done and I should be doing something.
Yep.
Well, no.
Take a chill pill. Here's the thing. A lot of young guys get out and become police officers because they've seen cops and they've watched the show. They think it's all action, 8-hour shift.
Yeah.
And the reality is you spend a lot of time with your computer in the car waiting for your next call. You might have an hour action on an 8-hour shift. It depends on where you are. If you're in Detroit, in Chicago, it might be every hour. But in some places, especially small towns, you might be sitting around doing nothing all day long for that shift. I don't know if you know this, but I know police officers who do a 20-year career definitely without shooting anybody, but often without even having to draw their weapon, depending on what town they're in. So, so it's not always that excitement and things like that. And let me tell you what happened to me. When I first got out of the military, I was an investigator in the military, Air Force and Army. I got out and went to my first department, the Department of Treasury. And there were 11 of us hired at the same time. There was a new department that was forming. 9 of them were retired Secret Service agents. And there was me and a guy who was a park police officer. We're doing our cases. We're knocking things like you said. Hey, what's next, boss? Because in the military, I always had cases. And I was always running. And the old guys who were retired Secret Service, and this was a second career, they came to me and they came to both of us. And they said, hey, you guys need to slow down. I'm like, what do you mean slow down? They're like, you guys are making us look bad. You guys are doing too much. They're going to think all of us are going to have to work to that level. It's like, you can slow down. Take your time, get your case done. There's another case that's going to come along. And I had to learn that, now after many years, I see it. But at the beginning, I want to prove myself. I want to get promoted. I want to run cases. I want to kick indoors and have fun. So you mellow out as you get a little bit older and find out.
No, yeah. And I mean, I think about it the other day. May will be 5 years for me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I just kind of thinking the other day, kind of reminiscing, I guess, a little bit like, wow, I'm different at almost 28 than I was at 22 when I started.
Yeah. You changed. And even your outlook changed. And even being around the industry and seeing what you see changes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So thinking back, and it's only 5 years, but think about what advice would you give to someone now who wants to enter this field? A newbie coming in.
I'd say if you could get a degree first, because a degree that will help you, even if it doesn't, we don't get paid on the civilian side for a degree, and certified does. But I mean, even in general, you're further along with a degree than you are without one.
And why is that? Because somebody commented on degrees earlier. Why do you think so? I want to hear your opinion.
I think I just like the knowledge that I gained from the criminal justice degree. I mean, whether I use it in daily life or not, is kind of irrelevant, but just it teaches everybody else out there that kind of, as you move up, if you want to do supervisor or manager or whatever, that kind of like, oh, you've got a degree, and the person they're also interviewing doesn't have a degree. Okay, you've kind of got a leg up, but also kind of, how to tolerate the petty kind of BS, so to speak, of like, hey, let's do these papers and do these tests and do these quizzes and do the monotonous stuff. So you'll probably be able to do this role that you're applying for pretty well.
I'm glad you said it, because the guy earlier said that if nothing else, the degree shows that you have, number one, that stick-to-itiveness. You stuck to four.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going for. Yeah.
Yep, and you know, you planned, you've done it, you've implemented, and that's, if nothing else, it shows that. So your degree could be anything, but you stuck around to do a degree, and a lot of people don't do that. Now, I want to ask you about the degree. I have a criminal justice degree, and I have my opinion on it. I'm gonna give it after you. But as far as criminal justice degree getting you ready for law enforcement, what's your thought on that? Did it get you ready?
I mean, it gives you, but if you go the route I know a lot of people do, but is get the degree in criminal justice, go become patrol, and do street cop and all that. It gives you, I think, some of the basics. Like if you're going through the academy or whatever, and I know this from talking to some people that have been through it and all that, they kind of said when they got out, some of the stuff they learned in the academy was the same stuff they learned in college. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a preview, I would say, so to speak. And like I said, I haven't been through the academy or anything like that, so I don't know their exact curriculum. But that's what I'd kind of say is the criminal justice degree. And I mean, like I said, when I started out, I'm not good at math, so I didn't want something that was math intensive, and it was like criminal justice was kind of something that interested me. Versus, I think if you have an interest in something that you're getting a degree in, it helps you a little bit more.
Definitely. Yeah.
Versus, I want to go get a degree in archaeology. So, as an example, I'm not really interested in it, but it's what I got a scholarship in or something like that. Am I probably going to do as well as that in something that I'm not interested in versus something I am? Probably do better in something you're interested in.
Well, I like that you say that, and here's why. First of all, I know people who got law degrees who didn't want to, who quit or didn't want to be lawyers because they did it for the money. And I'm a cybersecurity professor at University of Maryland, and I got people in my class who are changing fields only because they know cyber is hot and the pay is good. And I tell them, look, if you're not interested, I said, number one, if you're coming into cybersecurity, you're never going to stop learning. So it's not like you can get an accounting degree. Accounting has been the same since Egyptian times. I said with cybersecurity, it changes all the time, which means you got to constantly study. So I'm like, if you really don't want to do that and you really don't like IT, don't become a cybersecurity guy just for the money, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or a police officer, whatever, just for the money. You got to have a passion for what you're going to do somewhat. The reason I asked you about your degree is because in my criminal justice degree, we learned about the administration of justice. So it kind of prepared us, like if I wanted to be a supervisor in law enforcement, it would have been good for me. Also, it taught me how to run prisons and justice systems and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, it didn't really prepare me to be an investigator. I didn't take investigations 101. You might have. I didn't have like an investigations 101 and patrol 101. I had the administrative of justice. I learned how to administer justice, but not how to do an investigation. Was yours kind of like that, or how was your?
I mean, mine was similar. It was kind of like you do the first couple of years of all your gen ed stuff you have to get out of the way, and then it's take the courses in criminal justice you're required to. So it's kind of like I took a ethics and criminal justice course, and I took a data analysis course, and but I mean, some of the electives I got to do were pretty cool, just like an intro to law enforcement that was
so that's good, yeah.
Taught by a local law enforcement officer who brought out some of the K-9 unit in the aviation and some of the specialty units. So we got to kind of see, hey, here's what these guys really do on a daily basis. And it's like, I think presenting to elementary school kids about like, hey, here's what aviation does versus presenting to a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds that
prospective law enforcement officers.
Prospective law enforcement officers. It's a little bit kind of a different type of presentation. So most of the specialty units that came in knew what they were doing. Obviously, they've been there, they've done that. And,
now, do you have a reserve officer program down there with your department?
I think we do. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Because that might be fun to do for you. I mean, we have guys who work for the agency, and they also do the reserve officer program. That way, they don't go to the academy and stuff. They wear a uniform and go out and do what you're doing now. But I mean, it gives them a sense of belonging to that. Well, you already belong, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But no, I think some departments down here do, some don't. But yeah, I mean, it was different in college. Just some of the courses that I took, like some of the electives were pretty fun, and So it was kind of, I think, a wide overview of the criminal justice system was kind of what I went through.
So it showed you what you were getting into, at least,
Kind of, and it was just like all the things that our professor was like, it's not just law enforcement that you could go into. And I mean, looking back at it now, it's like, do I got friends that have criminal justice degrees from college that went into law enforcement? Yeah, sure. But I also know people that have done children and family services and some federal law enforcement careers and state. And it's kind of just a wide mix of stuff that you can go into with a criminal justice degree. And I mean, I think the thing to just remember in general is you've got a degree. Nobody can take that away from you.
Absolutely. Now, I want to say this. Maybe it might have changed now, but I applied for and got accepted into the FBI Academy, but I went a different route. I went to DIA instead. But I want to say this. They wanted folks who have accounting degrees. A lot of people major in criminal justice so they can go work for a federal agency. They prefer to get you with accounting or business or something. Because they say the academy would teach you the criminal justice part. We want you to know, a skill that we can use, like the accounting skill for FBI or for IRS or whatever. So I just
I looked into federal as well. I kind of looked into federal, state, local, all that type of stuff. And I mean, the thing with federal is, at least to the best of my knowledge, they move you around a lot. What's your top 3 preferences of where you want to go, this and that, and kind of federal, you don't have a choice. Like they can send you anywhere pretty much in the US or in the world. And I'd already moved around a lot as a kid due to my parents' jobs. And so it's kind of like, I want to stay in one spot for the most part. So that's why, and that was one of the things too, that I chose a county level versus like a local or a city was in Florida, there's the Florida retirement system. So you can go anywhere within I think there's 66 counties in Florida. You can go anywhere in those 66 counties and they're all in the Florida retirement system. Plus there's other employers as well, fire department, EMS, Goodwill, all kinds of things that are in the Florida retirement system. So
do you think you're gonna stay with this? Do you see your future?
Yeah, I mean, I want to stay with this agency. It's a great group of people and great coworkers. And like I said, we live here, we work here, we pray here. It's kind of like
community. You become a community. People know who you are in that community. So
so to speak, yeah.
So what is one of the things you're most proud of in your career so far?
So far, I'd say, like I said, just
there's a lot more is going to happen. You got a lot of years ago.
No, I know. I'd say just in the beginning, just like I said in the beginning of the show, I like to help people. And so that's probably what I'm most proud of on a daily basis is just kind of, even if I have a bad day at work or something like that, which we all do, it's just helping people at the end of the day.
I tell people that our job is one of the real jobs that you can say every day you have an impact. You make a difference. You actually make a difference every day. I mean, I have an IT job. I'm still an IT at IRS. Every day doesn't make a difference. Like if we have a project and we can't do it today, we can always push it to tomorrow. But I feel like in law enforcement, PI or whatever, I actually make a difference and an impact on people's lives. And I think with your job, we can feel like we do that every single day. I don't have to kick in the door today, but even if I go out and do outreach and somebody smiles today, I made a difference in somebody's life. They have a different mentality about the police officers. So I think that's kind of rewarding. So that's your proudest moment. So now we got to ask, what's your biggest failure so far, and what did you learn from that? Any mistakes or anything that you can talk about? Well, here's the thing: we make mistakes, but we learn from them. So what would yours be, if you have any?
I'd say probably, like I said previous a little bit, I still have that gung-ho mentality sometimes about, hey, I completed all my work. What's next? I don't want to be bored. I don't like downtime. And so I'd say comparing that and almost 5 years into when I was 22, fresh out, I'm slowly learning how to accept the downtime and boredom factor better than I did 5 years ago. And I'd say it's just in terms of biggest failure, just like sometimes I'll make a mistake at work or something like that, and I'll kind of dwell on it. And I don't think I do that as much.
Leave it and go, right?
Anymore. It's kind of just, all right, you made a mistake. It's not a life and death decision, and just move on to the next.
Well,
I'll go to the next day. And
just something you said I think is very important. I want to make sure I emphasize it. Between 22 and 28, when you first went, and this is for new officers, this is for new federal agents, new firemen, whatever it may be. At 21, 22, you go in and you want to be high speed and you want it to be go, 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 go. I think that one of your good big lessons is that you've learned now in just 5 years, it's not always go, 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 go. And I think you passing it on to folks saying, look, be prepared that when you go through the academy and come out, it's going to be some downtime. It's going to be slow. It's not always high speed, kicking in doors and guns blazing. And I think if people know that going in, they would understand more. All the guys who've been on before you, who have been around years ago, and I asked them what would they tell their younger self, they always say, talk to people who've been around, talk to agents like them now, or officers like them now who've been around, because you get an idea of what the job is really like, as far as the stresses on your life, as far as being that officer. That's one of the guys I interviewed said, this is what he said. He said that when people escalate on him, he gets really quiet, almost to a whisper, because he said they're trying to hear him and they have to de-escalate to hear what it is he's saying. He said now when he was a young officer, they escalate, he escalate, because we got to be the baddest. We got the gun and the badge. He learned he de-escalate and they de-escalate. So it's these lessons like that you're talking about that's going to help the young officers out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just in general, it's for anybody out there, regardless of your profession or college, if you're still in college or whatever, read some books on communication, take a course on communication, because it's not just law enforcement, PI, military, EMS, fire, whatever. Communication's everywhere. And it's like recently, I had my appendix out and I was just kind of sitting there in the hospital. Maybe part of it was kind of on pain meds and everything else, but it's like, man, I haven't been as the best communicator with my family or with my coworkers or whatever. And I was just kind of sitting there reminiscing, like, hey, I can be a little bit better than I used to be.
What you just said is very important. You know why? Our job is, people think our job is kicking in doors, putting on cuffs, arresting people. 80% of what we do is communication. I might not even have to pull out my gun or put cuffs on you if I communicated correctly. So communication is very important. And I'll tell you another thing I like to talk about now. I don't see as much, and people always complain to me about it. Critical thinking skills. Know how to listen and have critical thinking skills. Be able to think through. Excuse me 1 second.
This is a reminder.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, man, I'll cut this piece out. But, having those communication skills, having that critical thinking to be able to think yourself out of something, it's not always force. It's not always your badge. You got to give respect to get respect. And just because you got something on your chest doesn't automatically get you respect. You know that today for law enforcement, they don't really respect it like they used to. In my day, I would never mouth off to a law enforcement officer because I know he's probably going to smack me upside my head in Chicago. But now people think nothing of it. People think, hey, I got the right to film you and all that kind of stuff, which you do, but it'd be much easier to talk with the officer, and talk your way through it or whatever it may be. So people got to get used to that. So that's good, man. I think those lessons that you're talking about are going to be good lessons learned for folks. I don't care if you're experienced or inexperienced.
I mean, I think, and partially too, like I said earlier in the video, biggest failure, I think, was the realization. Like I said, I knew I had the vision issue. I figured I'd try for the deputy position for sworn road patrol and see what happens. And unfortunately, I got told I couldn't move forward with the academy and doing road patrol, which at the time I was like, I thought it was my dream for so long. And then realizing that I could do something else that could still help people on the civilian side of things was kind of a good realization. And not to get like into too much religious or anything like that, but it's kind of like God gave me, I think, that vision issue for a reason and kept me off the street for a reason and had a whole different plan for me than I thought. And so I'd say probably just for anybody out there that's watches this, if you're going down a path that you think is your destiny or whatever, and it doesn't turn out that way, just stop and sit back and think for a second, kind of, what's this trying to teach me? And what lessons can I learn from this, and go from there.
I really like that, because as you said, religion, I don't want to get a lot into religion, but you have a gift, and your gift might be in a different area. Now, you wanted to be a law enforcement officer, but your gift took you someplace else, and you're probably serving better in that gift, with that gift, than you might have served as a law enforcement officer, as far as you know. And by the way, one other thing, I have a buddy, you just made me think, I have a buddy who wanted to be a police officer, and he's blind in one eye. So he couldn't be a police officer, but guess what? Now he's come up on 30 years as a federal police officer. So, because, federal police officer guarding federal facilities. So it's kind of a guard position, but he's a federal police officer, get a police retirement and all that. So he was still able to fulfill his entire career he's a lieutenant now, wearing uniform, gun and badge, and blind in one eye. So, there's so many things, like you said, that we can still do to fulfill our dream. Because if you have a dream to be in law enforcement and it's taken away, well, let me give you an example. I served in the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army, and I'm in the Coast Guard Auxiliary right now. But let me tell you this, I left out one service. At 17, I went to the Marine recruiter, and he looked at they took me back for my examination. They said, Derek, you can never serve in any military service. They said, your knees are bad. I had a football injury in my knee. They said, your knees are bad. You're disqualified from all service. So I went and joined the Coast Guard, but I wanted to go right now. So I came back and joined the Navy. The Navy guy came out and said, you disqualified from all service. He said, but come on back and let me take a look at you and see how it is. Afterwards, he said, you're good enough for the Navy. Go into the Navy. So now I have 2 years Navy, 15 Air Force, 8 Army, and I'm in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So my dream was almost ruined because the Marines told me I couldn't. And I wouldn't be in law enforcement right now. I did 40 years of martial arts and black belts, and none of that would have happened if I had let it stop right there. So I think what you're saying is very important. You might have to alter that dream a little bit, but you can still have that dream. So my last question.
Like I said, I'm just like your average guy. I'm nothing special, and just do my thing and all that. But I just like, if I can, like I said, I like helping people. So if I can help people on this podcast somehow, and I mean, like you said, like I'm sure with the Navy, there's been people out there that probably don't have vision issues like I do, but I'm sure there've been people out there that like want to be Navy pilots and fighter pilots and all that. And you don't meet the minimum vision requirement to be a fighter pilot.
Nope.
Still something else you can do in the Navy, or something else you can do in the other armed service branches to help out. I
got buddies like that who wanted to be pilots.
Yeah.
They couldn't sit in the left seat, but they were able to sit in the right seat. So they still get to fly every day as navigators or as something else. They're not piloting the plane, but they do something in that role because their vision took them out. People went to the academy, I know, wanted to be fighter pilots and couldn't do it. So I want to be cognizant of your time. So I got one last question for you. If you could step into my shoes right now, what would you have asked yourself that I maybe did not ask you? What would you like to leave people with?
I'd probably say just kind of some advice that I've gotten from other people is, and I'll gear this more towards maybe some younger guys in college or people in the academy or whatever. Just go to work, do your job, go home.
Yep.
Don't, there's politics and drama in law enforcement, just like there is in any other profession. Just don't get involved in that.
Yep.
Just go to work, do your job to the best of your ability, go home.
I love you say that. I'm going to touch on some just for a minute because I try to avoid it. But, with this whole thing that happened at the Capitol and all that, there was some police officers involved in that, things like that. And these groups that we're in, I love that we keep it nonpartisan. Our job is to be unbiased. And I don't care what religion, creed, sex you are. When I show up as law enforcement, my job is to get to the truth. and to whether it's good or bad. If you're accused of something, my job is to find out whether you did it or not, did not do it. So I like that our role is exactly what you said, Colby. Go do a good job. Go do our job. Get the facts or whatever our job may be, and live to go home the next day. Not get involved with who's wearing a red hat and who's wearing a blue hat and who's doing this and what sex that person is. Whatever has nothing to do with our job. So, and that's how we have to be. They say you're supposed to be unbiased. We really have to be unbiased in this job. Now, everybody has a bias, but our job is to be that unbiased, neutral person that's just coming here to get the facts, solve a problem, whatever it is, and then move on and go home that day. And some officers, I think, forget that. But let me tell you, man, I really appreciate you spending time with me. I think that what you said, there's some valuable tidbits here that people are going to appreciate. And this is going to be out there pretty soon. I'm going to edit it and things like that. But, man, thank you very much. You're part of my network. So if you need anything.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thanks again for your time. And
yes,
like I said, I'm just like your average guy. And hopefully I was able to throw out some little tidbits of info or advice or whatever you want to call it that might be able to help somebody. And thanks again for having me on. And
well, I appreciate it. Here's my goal, Colby. I don't want to just bring 40-year guys on, 20-year guys on. This is for that new person that's starting out also. In our groups, we got a lot of newbies. And I want those folks to see folks who haven't been around as long. I had a girl on who only had 2 years on, and people are interested in their stories, in your stories with the mid-career, 5 to 10 years, and old guys like me. So this Blue Table Talk is for everybody. So I like getting guys on like you who are kind of starting their career, brand newbies, and the old fogies like myself. So I appreciate that, man. I'm going to post in the groups, and I'll ping you when this is ready to go. All right. I put something out every Friday. So, last thing. If people wanted to connect with you, what would be the best way of doing it? And if you don't have to give the email address or anything if you don't want to, but if somebody want to connect with you, how can they do that? And I'm gonna make sure that it's in the bottom of the video as well.
Probably just Facebook.
Okay, so I'll put your Facebook, link to your Facebook on there. And anybody have any follow-up questions or want to ask about what you do, they'll be able to do that. Remember, this is only in our groups, so it'll be other people like us that's seeing it. Thanks, man. Have a great day.